For more analysis on this White House shakeup this afternoon, former White House insider Karl Rove, who's a senior advisor, deputy chief of staff to George W. Bush, joins us from Austin, Texas. Karl, your thoughts, first of all, on this breaking news happened just before 5.
Yeah, well, President Trump has had the shortest-serving national security advisor in American history, and he's now had the shortest-serving chief of staff in American history. The previous record holder was Ken Duberstein, who served for about 6 months, just less than 6 months, under Ronald Reagan, and now Reince Priebus has served just over 6 months. So a change in the White House. The question is going to be, what kind of authority has General Kelly been given? My suspicion is that he did not take this job without an understanding of what kind of an authority he would have. The West Wing is a really hard-working, fast-moving place, and complicated in the best of times, and it can't be run without having a chief of staff who's got authority over the hiring and firing in the West Wing and a control over direct reports. The president should have people who can walk in and out of the Oval, but everybody in the West Wing should work for the chief of staff in a process that best serves the president. My sense is we're likely to see that happen here with General Kelly.
Say a word or two, Karl, about Reince Priebus and how this kind of transpired. He obviously had a amazing run as helping the campaign, and then talk about his service there as chief of staff.
Well, look, this has been a chaotic White House. White Houses are an expression of the personality and the methods and the leadership style of the president. You don't have a White House that's run distinctly different than the president wants it to be run. So the question is going to be, in the weeks ahead, is President Trump willing to have less chaos and more control and more focus? And I think he probably, this was a deliberate decision on his part, and it's going to be reflected first and foremost in the policy-making processes of the government, because clearly, General Kelly, from the military background and from his service at the Department of Homeland Security, is focused on methodical process, planning and execution. And you may remember he was the first victim of the chaotic policy process of this White House. The very first week that President Trump was in office, he issued the executive order on immigration and on visas for people from terror states. And you may remember there was pretty good evidence that General Kelly raised concerns about this on a Wednesday or a Thursday, saying basically back through his people to the White House, I've got concerns about this. Looks like it applies to current green card holders. I'm worried about the lack of clarity on how it affects Iraqi civilians who helped American military, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Virtually every one of those objections turned out to be a major problem with the first iteration of the president's executive order on these visas from terror states, and it was because, having raised those concerns, the normal expectation was, all right, we will now have a constructive process where these issues will be ground through and incorporated in the thinking, if need be, about the president's executive order. And in fact, there was no process, and they simply went ahead with the original draft that Kelly and his people had seen that they objected to, but they had no input on the final product. I don't think that's going to happen again with General Kelly at the top of the process.
Karl, several sources now saying that Kelly has been given full authority and that everything essentially will go through him, no more just walking in and out of the Oval Office. If that is true, how big a deal is that? Each president operates differently, but from everything we heard from this Oval Office, there was a lot of that, especially with family members. When you have your son-in-law and your daughter working as senior advisors, they come in and out, and perhaps tough to stand up to a member of the family.
Yeah, look, General Kelly has a lot of challenges, and you touch on one of them. Hard to work in the West Wing if you can't be fired by the chief of staff. I mean, that makes it difficult for the chief of staff. It makes it difficult for the president. And he's got two people there who cannot be fired, Ivanka and Jared, and that's a problem for him. And I hope they understand that that's a problem and respect the role of the chief of staff and don't go around him. He also has a problem in the new communications director. Having said the ugly things that he said about Reince Priebus, Priebus and the ugly things he said about Steve Bannon, that poisoned the atmosphere with one guy who's now gone, but that's a problem in making certain that that kind of thing does not continue to go on. I'm sure there are people inside the White House where I worked for 7 years who had strong opinions about other people, but I never heard them expressed in a way like that, and certainly never heard them expressed publicly in the manner that they were done. And that's going to be a test of both Scaramucci's willingness to accept adult supervision or to leave, and it's also going to be a test for the new chief of staff. There's one other thing here that you touched on earlier with Britt that I want to return to. The job of chief of staff requires really good political instincts, and General Kelly, on the one hand, is from the military and has not been in practical politics, has not been on Capitol Hill as an elected official, but he has been on Capitol Hill as a liaison, as you pointed out earlier, for the Marines, and he's been a top deputy to 2 defense secretaries. So he does have some political skills, but he would be well advised to have somebody close to him who does have those kind of skills, because that becomes a big part of any chief of staff's job.
Karl Rove, as always, thank you.